Good morning, everybody. Thanks for jumping on. This is our Tuesday mastermind that we do every week, every Tuesday morning. This is with Freedom Team here at EXP. And we do this every week. If you're a guest with us, welcome. I know we have several on here today. We always do. You're always welcome. It's always open to everybody. This is not an EXP pitch. This is just good value add stuff for your production and ways to make more money in your business and do more deals and all the, how to build your business, all that kind of stuff that we're looking to do and stuff they don't teach you in real estate school. So keep us out of jail in real estate school, but they don't tell us how to build a business. So anyway, this is the good part. So anyway, appreciate you guys being here. Kathy, why don't you take it away? You can introduce the Done For You guys.
Yeah.
We'll get going. We got some good stuff today.
Yeah, we've got some good stuff for y'all. So again, thanks for being here today. And I'm going to just introduce Steve and Nate. You guys may have seen them last week. They did a training for us. They were Done For You Real Estate. They really helped the everyday person out there buy investment properties, in multiple cities across the United States. And, one of they've sold, if you guys were on last week, they've sold over 6,000 houses. And one of the strategies that they help their clients utilize is 1031 exchanges. And so they're going to, I'm going to just turn it over to them. I'm going to let them tell you a little bit about our guest speaker and how they utilize Ashleigh today. We're going to be talking about 1031s, or Ashleigh is, I should say, going to be talking about 1031s and how you can help your clients or even yourself if you, and as an agent or an investor, how you can use 1031s just to expand your portfolio, even faster. So Steve Earle, he is the founder of Done For You Real Estate. And then Nate, I'll just say Nate is his right hand arm or his left hand. I guess Kevin, it might be at the right, but anyway, these two guys are amazing. We are excited to be partnered up with them. And Steve, are you or Nate gonna start us off here?
Yeah, I'll kind of kick things off. It's interesting. I'm sure everybody saw the kind of the advertisements that Jeff sends out for the different presentations and trainings that the Freedom Team does, which, by the way, are amazing. Thank you for doing these 3 days a week. It's fantastic. And I'm sure that you saw this thing, 1031 exchange. It's like, oh man, this is going to be like really exciting. We're going to learn about some IRS code. And but the reality is this opportunity that we have as real estate agents to help our clients understand how they can utilize this really great tool is a great opportunity, because it's one of those things when you can speak to it kind of fluently, and you can refer people to a great team like Ashleigh's team. It just really makes the process super simple, super easy. And here at Done For You Real Estate, it's actually one of the strategies that we have used to help us get to where we're doing nearly 400 transactions every year, because half of those transactions that we do every year are just our repeat customers coming back again and again and doing more business with us. And that has been kind of the key to our success is getting that repeat business. I mean, obviously we would be doing almost half the deals that we currently are if it weren't for the 1031 exchange. And so as part of the lead up to understanding like the power of a 1031 exchange to help your clients move forward in whatever real estate activities they're involved in, I wanted to have Nate just take a couple of minutes and share with you kind of like a case study or case studies of how we use a 1031 exchange to help our clients do more deals. And that's kind of the key. That's one of the things. It's one of the reasons why we're kind of introducing or spending some time on the 1031 exchange, because it is a way to generate additional transactions. And quite frankly, if you're like us, we are looking for more transactions to do this year because where we're at in the market. And so this is a powerful tool that if you know how to speak to it, you can actually, help your clients do more deals. So maybe Nate, do you want to take a couple minutes and just kind of chat about that before you introduce Ashleigh?
You bet. Yeah, this is the exciting part. So I wanted to talk about the Brinkerhoffs. The Brinkerhoffs came to us in 2013 and purchased their first property. And so, our style and what we do is we work with clients, we stick with them over time, and we help them analyze their properties year over year and say, hey, what makes sense with your properties? Is it continue to hold? Are we doing a cash out refinance? But a lot of times a client's going to buy a property, they're going to hold that for 5 to 7 years. They're going to sell, and we're going to do that 1031 exchange. And this is where it gets exciting. And so we have our acquisition coaches and our team here that are conducting an annual property review, and it's so valuable for our clients. And so one of those options is to really look at that 1031. Does it make sense for them to sell and to expand into 2 or 3? And sometimes we've even had clients sell 1 and buy 4. It just kind of depends on, what the market has done, for their property. And so we really dive into the numbers, and so the Brinkerhoffs, they just did a 1031 last year, just towards the end of last year. And Jack and Peggy, they're pretty particular. And so we really take some time. They come into our office, we sit down with them when we really just evaluate their properties and what's really going to make sense. And they're kind of pre-retirees. And so, they're really careful with their assets, as a lot of our clients are. And so we really have to dig in. And so they had one of their properties. It was our property down in the Orlando area. It was aging. They've held it for, I think it was about 6 or 7 years. And so we look at it and saying, you know what, you've got enough equity in this property. We look at the numbers. We say, if we sold this one and we went and bought 2 more, what does that look like for you? So we really help them crunch the numbers, understand good information and good options. And then they're in a position to, pull the trigger and make some good decisions. And so they did. We help them, line up the sell. We get this property sold. We take them through the process too of saying, all right, if we are going to sell this property, let's back into when the lease expires. Does it make sense to sell to another investor with a tenant in there, or wait till the lease expires, we get the tenant out and we sell it on the open market? We jump into pre-approval with lending and saying, hey, how many properties can the Brinkerhoffs qualify for and to purchase at one time? Because the ideal is to sell this one and to go buy 2. And that's where it gets a little bit, we have to really dive in and work with the 1031 exchange company and also our lender and saying, all right, Dustin, if we're pre-approving these guys, what can we do to make this 1031? Can they qualify to purchase 1 at a time or 2 at a time? And so long story short, they were able to qualify for, 2 at a time, and that makes a 1031 exchange pretty easy. And so we line it up, we get that property sold, we help them really understand 1031 guidelines and rules and timeframes so that they understand. We gear things up with the agents in the markets that they're going to purchase. And so they're ready to start shopping as soon as that property is solid to be closed on the sale of that property and so forth. And then the important part is to get that 1031 exchange company tied in and introduced to the Brinkerhoffs to make sure, hey, they're ready to go. They get the 1031 exchange set up. We really explain, like, hey, you know what, you need to have that 1031 exchange set up before closing. And we typically get that set up long before that and so forth. And so for us, having a strong relationship and confidence in not only a good 1031 exchange company, but the individuals that are there is very, very important, because, we're working a lot with these clients. We're putting a lot of effort into helping them expand their portfolio. And then the confidence to hand them over to a good exchange company, which is Ashleigh here, is pretty critical for us. And so I've been with Done For You now for over 12 years. And I think Ashleigh, we've worked with Ashleigh and her team for 10 or more of those years, actually. And
at least
that. And so we've had, her and her team have been down to our office multiple times to do training about 1031 exchanges. Ashleigh does, and I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, Ashleigh, but Ashleigh trains and does continuing education for 1031. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely. I teach a 2-hour course. I also do lunch and learns. I can do them virtually. So lots of fun and lots of options.
So really with 1031s, I mean, we try to keep them as simple as possible. Sometimes they can get a little intricate, but that's where we lean on Ashleigh and her team. And so Ashleigh is with IPX 1031 Exchange. They're one of the largest 1031, if not the largest 1031 exchange company in the United States. And so they've have some absolute fabulous resources when it comes to 1031 exchanges. And so Ashleigh, I've worked with Ashleigh for a long time. She is great. I call Ashleigh all the time, just saying, hey, what about this scenario? What about that one? And things like that. And she's great. If I leave her a message, she's getting back to me that same day. I mean, she's very responsive, but she's the VP of National Accounts with IPX. Again, over 10 years of experience with 1031. I don't know how many millions, billions of dollars of exchanges you or your team have done. Ashleigh, I'm sure it's up there. I don't know if you have that number off the top of your head, but anyways, we're really glad to have Ashleigh on board. Ashleigh, I'll let you take over, and she's going to spend some time just reviewing some basics about 1031s. I think this will be great if it's an interactive. If you guys have questions, you can feel free to post those in the chat, and then we can help, bring those to Ashleigh's attention, during this call.
Yes, please. Don't let me talk at you for 30 minutes. Ask questions. Let me know what you need. So to expand on Nate's point, we are Fidelity National Titles, or I'm sorry, Financials 1031 exchange arm. So Fidelity, that you guys all know and love, we are wholly owned by them. And we're actually the largest QI, qualified intermediary, in the country. And our team that I work on, we're, one big team, but the team that I work most closely with, we are headed by Mr. Mark Bullock, who Nathan and Steve know very well. He's an attorney. He's been in the exchange world for over 21 years, and he's done over 40,000 exchanges. So if there's someone you want in your corner, it's going to be Mark Bullock. We joke that he reads the tax code in bed at night, but he really does. And he thinks it's fun, and he knows it inside and out. So if there's ever any question on anything at all, I mean, Mark will know exactly where to find it in the tax code, and he's going to, be a good resource for you. Because he's so busy, that's where I come in. I'm the middleman. We have an entire team of exchange coordinators that actually facilitate the exchanges. They prepare the documents. They work with escrow or the closing attorneys. I'm always copied on every single exchange, so I know what's going on as well. And then you also have Mark Bullock. So you really have three of us throughout any transaction, any exchange. We all have cell phones, which is something that not a lot of exchange companies can say. So, we're always available. I'm a full-time single mom of 2 little boys, so I never sleep. Call me anytime. And we just really love what we do. Fidelity is a great company to work for, and we like working for them. So I think that makes a difference in kind of how we perform and how we respond. But I have a nice little handy dandy slideshow for you. And I also have flyers on just about every exchange topic under the sun. So if there's ever any information you guys need, and hey, do you have info on this? Hey, do you have info on this? Shoot me an email, and I'm happy to send you over whatever you'd like. All righty, I'm going to start to share this screen. And if you guys see here, this is a great little QR code. If you'd like to scan that on your phones, it'll take you right to my website. That has all of my contact information on there, as well as you can search it, any question, any topic. It is all right there at your fingertips. So that's a great one to kind of save or flag so that you have that for the future. There is my contact information there as well. I would say if you guys get one thing out of this class, it's to save my contact info, because you might not have a client needing an exchange for 3 to 6 months. And then all of a sudden that time comes and you're like, oh, I don't remember her name, but I know she was blonde and she kind of talked fast and loud. So if you save Ashleigh 1031, anything like that, at least you'll have that contact info handy.
And I just posted a link to Ashleigh's website as well. If you click on that, it'll have all of her contact information as well on that link.
Super helpful. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So section 1031 of the tax code is something that some people think just makes taxes go away. That's not true. It really just defers the taxes. So when you do a 1031 exchange, they aren't due then. but they don't just go away, if that makes sense. So in order to continue to avoid paying taxes, you're going to want to continue to do exchanges. And that's something we like to make people aware of right up front. Let's say they've bought and sold and bought and sold and done 3 or 4 exchanges, and then they decide to sell and don't do an exchange. All of the taxes that they've deferred up to that point do come due. So something to keep in mind, they're being deferred, they don't go away. We have lots of great funny terms that that we use on a regular basis. Here's some that I like for people to be aware of so that you guys, as Steve said, can be fluent or more fluent in kind of the terminology when you're talking to your clients. The exchanger is the person who is doing the exchange. They're the taxpayer that's on title to the property being sold. And that's the person or a taxpayer, whether it be an LLC, single person, married couple, that's going to both sell and buy in the exchange. The basis is the original cost of the property being sold plus improvements. And then you can take away any depreciation there. That's going to get you your basis. The taxable gain is, excuse me, I'm going to move this, is the selling price minus the basis. The boot is a fair market value of non-qualified property. So any cash received, if you don't spend all of your exchange funds, anything left over is going to be considered boot, that sort of thing. Constructive receipt is a big one when it comes to the IRS. They are very, very adamant about the exchanger never having constructive receipt of their funds. So that's where a qualified intermediary comes into play. They want a third party who is more than arm's length away holding those funds throughout the transaction. And like-kind property is probably the topic I get asked most about. Like-kind really just means investment property for investment property. A lot of people think, oh, I'm selling a single family, rental. I've got to buy a single family rental. Luckily, that's not the case. As long as you're selling investment property and purchasing investment property, that's satisfying that like-kind requirement. The qualified intermediary is us. We are the QI. We facilitate the exchange. We prepare all of your exchange paperwork. As I said, we work closely with escrow or the closing attorney. Everything we do is done via DocuSign. So we try to make it very convenient and smooth in terms of the process for your clients. The relinquished property is the property that is sold in the exchange. And the replacement property is the property that is purchased in the exchange.
Hey, Ashleigh, can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
So
Shoot.
qualified intermediary, and maybe this has changed over the years, but it seems to me like sometimes you would have an attorney or a bank saying, oh yeah, we can handle your 1031 exchange, and they may or may not be a qualified intermediary. Is that right?
Yeah, you're correct. We refer to the land of qualified intermediaries as the Wild Wild West. So there is no governing body. There is no oversight. Anyone can wake up one day and decide they're going to be a qualified intermediary, which is a problem, as you can imagine. There have been plenty of horror stories throughout, especially the last 20 years. There were a number of companies in 2008, 2009 that were discovered to have been embezzling funds or investing exchangers exchange funds in real estate ventures that ended up, going bust. They lost the money. There was a man in Las Vegas who was very successful as a QI, and he's in prison for 30 years now because he used those funds to fund his lifestyle. So, and when it comes to choosing a QI, you want to do your homework. Whether it's us or another qualified intermediary, you want to ask questions like, what do they do with the funds while they're being held? We hold all funds in segregated accounts in the exchanger's name only. And we only work with the largest, most secure banks like Citibank and US Bank. So we have an entire bank analysis team and fraud analysis team, as well as a banking team. That are constantly monitoring the health of banks and constantly monitoring the health of the accounts that we hold the funds in. Being owned by Fidelity means that we are subject to audits, and both internal and external, multiple times yearly. which is something that not most, and really other QIs are subject to. So we really do take the safety and security of funds seriously. That's something you want to ask about for sure when helping your client choose a QI is, what can you guarantee my funds are safe? We offer a fidelity bond, errors and omissions insurance, and a performance guarantee. So we really do take that seriously because it is the wild, wild west.
Yeah. And I always say this, and I appreciate that, a good QI or a good 1031 exchange company is going to be a great resource, and they're going to help your client keep their nose clean and up to speed during that 1031 exchange, so that they're not going to be subject to an audit by the IRS down the road. And so Ashleigh and her team just do a phenomenal job with walking clients through a good 1031 process. So
thank you. They're not always happy with the answers I give them. A lot of the time it's, nope, sorry, can't do that. But we do try to keep them kind of on the straight and narrow. Absolutely. All right, here is something that not a lot of people know about. Most of the time when someone says, hey, I want to do an exchange. If I don't, how much am I going to pay in taxes? What's my tax implication? They really only think of the federal rate, which is between 15 and 20%. What they don't think about are the other taxes, or know about are the other taxes that you can get hit with as well. So as of 2008, single investors who make more than $425,800 in the taxable income, and then married couples who make more than $479,000, they're going to pay 20% capital gains. I also can share this slideshow with you guys if anyone wants to email me, or I can send it to Nathan to send out. You guys can have a PDF version of this to refer to if you'd like as well. This is quite a little sneaky one. This is called the healthcare tax. So anyone who makes more than $200,000, married couples who make more than $250,000, they're also going to pay 3.8% healthcare tax, thanks to the Affordable Health Care Act. On top of that, either the 15 or 20% in the federal rate that they're paying. Depreciation, because the IRS likes their money. If someone's depreciated their property over the time or the course that they've owned it, and they don't do an exchange, the IRS is going to want 25% of that value back. So if it's a $100,000 property and they've depreciated it to zero, the IRS is also going to want $25,000 on top of the 3.8 and the 15 or 20%. And then you also have state taxes. So really, if you make, over that certain threshold, you can get hit about 4 different ways on taxes if you don't do an exchange. Californians, I don't know how they eat. I couldn't afford to live there with their tax rate. Utah's sitting at about 5% right now. Colorado's just below 5%. And then as you guys can see, I know you're from all over. Here's the current state tax rates.
So Ashleigh, I'm in Tennessee and we don't have a state tax here. So is this different than a state tax, or what is that 5%?
That's a good question. I'm going to have to ask because I did not make this slideshow. I want to know what the little asterisks are. My guess is that if you make over a certain percentage or a certain amount is when that tax kicks in. But I can absolutely confirm that for you. See, Mr. Mark Bullock would know this. He's a good resource. Yeah. All right. Here's an example for you guys of, of doing a sale versus an exchange. If you are calculating your net adjusted basis, which is the first step in figuring out how much you're going to owe in taxes, you take, let's say, the 1.5 million, the basis. You're going to add those capital improvements that you've put in over the years, the 200,000, and they are going to subtract the depreciation, of 600,000. Your net adjusted basis is going to be about 1.1 million. Next, you're going to calculate your capital gain. If the fair market value that you're selling it for is 3 million, and then you can subtract 200,000 of closing costs. Your sales price is going to be about 2.8. You subtract that basis and your capital gain is going to be about $1.7 million. Here is a ton of math that I'm not going to read and spew at you guys, but I'll kind of let you review that. If you sell and don't do an exchange, at the end of the day, you're going to pay about $486,150 in taxes, which is a painful chunk. If you were to do an exchange, those capital gains taxes would be deferred and you'd have all of that equity to reinvest. So if you put that down as the 20% down payment on a new property, you're going to have about 2.5 times the buying power than you would have otherwise had. Like kind property, really, as I mentioned earlier, is just investment property for investment property. So retail, apartments, raw land, industrial, commercial, and percent interest in a TIC all qualify. You can do, any combo of the following: residential for commercial, commercial for industrial, single family for multifamily. Something I get a lot is people don't think that vacant land qualifies, but the IRS views it as, because it generally appreciates over time, you're essentially making money on it, and therefore it's an investment, and it qualifies.
So
I had a
actually,
question.
Yeah.
if on that slide, as far as the like kind property, sometimes people don't really understand that, hey, if you have a commercial property, you can exchange that into residential property.
Yes.
We had a client out of California, actually, who decided that they, wanted to diversify a little bit, and they had a retail strip mall, and I think it was worth several $1 million, and they owned it free and clear at that point in time. And so they literally were able to exchange that commercial property into about 19 single family properties spread out across 4 different markets, which further diversified their portfolio, and they were able to actually increase their cash flow by over 30%.
Wow.
And so they got, they improved their risk management, they increased their cash flow, and the coolest part of the whole thing, in doing the exchange, they were able to defer, probably very similar to the example that you gave. It was hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yes.
that they didn't have to shell out in taxes at that moment in time. And so as far as like kind properties, that that's the type of thing that you can do,
Yes.
even if the properties aren't exactly the same. So
Right. No, thank you for that example. You're right. It makes a big difference when, when people don't have to just, fork over that money, they're able to reinvest. And like you said, 30% increase is huge.
I had a quick question.
Yeah.
So does this 1031 exchange also apply to, let's say I have an investor client who is wanting to do a syndication on a hotel that's being built? So they qualify for a percentage at 500,000. I mean, would that apply as well to a syndication deal?
That's a good question. Syndications usually can't be combined with exchanges. So most people usually kind of have to go one route or the other route, if that makes sense.
And the gentleman who just gave the example, when they went from commercial to residential, I know that you have 45 days to identify the property. So does he have to identify all 19 of those units that he purchased, or just one and then find the rest?
You have to identify all the properties you're interested in purchasing by that 45th day. And after that 45th day, you're locked in. So you're not able to make changes to your ID form. And at that point, you do have to purchase from the list that you provide.
Holy moly, those guys were busy.
I know, it's tricky. In situations like that too, especially with a team like Done For You, even before they sell, they kind of usually have a game plan. So you can start looking for replacement properties before you sell. As long as you close on your sale before you close on any purchases, you're good to even get things under contract for replacement properties. That's kind of the trick that a lot of people use. Some other examples of real property that people don't think of or might not be aware of are things like leases with 30 years remaining. If you have a long-term lease, you can absolutely exchange that. cell phone towers and perpetual easements because they are affixed to or actual, real property. The cell phone tower is not going anywhere for, a good long time. So they consider that real property. An undivided interest in one property for an undivided interest in another property is absolutely something that can work. Or let's say you own 50% of a property in a tick structure. You can go ahead and buy out your partner for that other 50%. And then the last one that people maybe aren't so aware of are timber rights, water rights, mineral rights, and things of that nature. Those are dependent on a state-by-state basis. Some states consider them real property, some don't. So that's a great way or thing to ask your tax advisor. But in Utah right now, we're seeing a lot of water rights being bought and sold because we're in a desert and we have a ton of people moving here, even though I try to, sometimes tell people we're full. And so the water is a hot commodity right now. Water rights are being bought and sold and exchanged quite frequently.
So I have a question too.
Yes.
When somebody does an exchange, let's say it is a series of properties,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe 7 properties down, do you owe taxes in each property, or it is maybe the first property or the last property?
It would be all of the properties for everything that you've deferred. It would be all the properties.
So let's say if somebody does a transaction like the one you gave an example where the tax amount is 486,000. So if he does seven properties like that, so that means he owes 486,000 times 7.
Each property that's sold is going to have a different kind of tax implication, depending on how long they've owned it and other things. So whatever amount of taxes that they deferred on each property that they've sold over time, that's going to be the aggregate value of what he sold. So he might, have owed 200,000 that he deferred on one and 900,000 that he deferred on another. Those would combine for that 1.1 million.
Yeah, so I was just giving an example, 486, like to make it easier to follow through. But, the main thing that I'm trying to understand is, like, let's say if the person, they did the first transaction and they owe 486,000 in that transaction, then they do a second transaction and do the same thing. So at the end of the day, they would owe the IRS 486 times 7.
If they continue to do exchanges,
Yes.
Then those taxes would all continue to be deferred. It's only when they stop doing an exchange after they've done 1 or 2 or 7 that those taxes would come due. So if they keep doing exchanges kind of throughout their lives, then those taxes would continue to be deferred.
And so when they are due, he will be expected to pay all those taxes at once.
Great question. Yep. So there's something that I have in a slide coming up about inherited property. If someone's done exchanges, let's say, even if it's 1 or if it's 25 throughout the course of their lives, when they pass away, their heirs who inherit those properties then receive a step up in basis. So at that point, their heirs get to start fresh and the taxes more or less are forgiven. But it's only when they pass away and those properties are inherited does that happen.
So if I can just kind of emphasize this point, this is one of the most incredible things probably on the face of the planet when it comes to taxes, because if you are investing on purpose and with a plan and you're utilizing 1031 exchanges, what you very quickly realize that what this gentleman, Joseph was talking about is like, hey, at one point, is the piper going to come calling and I or somebody's going to owe all of the tax on these properties? And the answer is yes, unless your plan was to hold on to these properties and utilize the benefits from these properties, the cash flow that's coming, and instead of selling them, maybe you're doing a cash out refi if you happen to need the cash, or you're doing everything in your power to not have to sell these properties, such that you then leave these properties to your heirs. So if you built a portfolio of so in the case of Done For You real estate, our goal is to help our clients build a portfolio of 10 properties and to, over the course of time, exchange the properties. But the key here is, in your plan, is to never like cash out, because when you cash out, then all of those taxes come due. And what Ashleigh just shared is this is, one of the 7 wonders of the world, which is a 1031 exchange, where at the end of the day, when you pass these properties onto your heirs, they get what she said, a step up in basis, which means all of those taxes go away and your heirs take over those properties with no tax liability. And then they start over, they get to start over again, deferring those taxes for the lifetime that they own those properties. It's one of the most incredible things about a 1031 exchange. If you plan your real estate investing and you actually do so, with a plan, you can defer those taxes for your entire lifetime, and then your children get to take them over with the taxes completely wiped out. Did I say that right, Ashleigh?
You nailed it. Yep. That was beautifully said. Absolutely. It's true. It is one of the best estate planning tools available to people. It's really a gift. Does anybody have any questions? All right.
Yes, this is on a sidebar, so you don't have to get to it right now, but recently I heard that Congress is trying to do away with 1031 exchanges, as well as a Stop Predatory Investing Act, but that's for like 50 units or more. Do you have thoughts on this? And you don't have to elaborate on it now if I'm going to interrupt the class, but maybe at the end or something, whenever you have time.
No, that's okay. This is something I'm not super familiar with the Stop the Predatory Lending Act, but I am familiar with Biden threatening to do away with exchanges. It's something that happens just about every election cycle at some point, especially depending on the president's party. Some parties are more fond of or, cool with exchanges than others. And so especially this time around, Biden proposed to do away with 1031 exchanges. It's not the first time that's happened with, him or presidents in general, but there is just about every company out there, whether it be title companies, real estate companies, exchange companies, they make known, I would say they lobby at Congress. There's something called the Federal Exchange Association that really goes out and reaches out to Congress and the congressmen and women and senators, and and they just say, hey, this is the benefit of doing exchanges. It's never something that we believe will actually happen, but it is something that we take seriously and try to educate our senators and representatives about. Between us, most senators and representatives use exchanges. So that's one of the, they are wealthy, they want to preserve their wealth, and they do exchanges. So presidents do like to throw the eliminate exchanges around a lot. But we feel like we're in a very, very comfortable position right now when it comes to them being safe, at least for the time being.
I have it on good authority that Mark and Ashleigh single-handedly put a stop to the disintegration of the 1031 exchange. So we're good. We're good.
I don't know, Nathan. I don't have the energy.
It's a good question, and it does come up, but I like what Ashleigh, we follow that too, but I think 1031s for now are safe, and it's such a great, tax opportunity in the tax code. So
yes. And they generate more economic development than taxes lost. So I think that that's something, the taxes that people aren't paying because they're doing exchanges, the economic growth and development that is produced, the jobs created because of exchanges, all of those things outweigh just those, the taxes that are being deferred. So that's something that Congress looks at and really takes seriously too, is even though you look at the number and say, oh my gosh, people are not paying, this chunk in taxes, really the benefits far outweigh that number. Here are some myths that we see all the time. Exchangers don't have to complete the exchange in a simultaneous transaction. Just because you do an exchange doesn't mean you're automatically going to be audited. That's something that we hear a lot. Exchanges aren't difficult, and they're not only for large properties or wealthy property owners. My smallest exchange right now is about $40,000, and my largest is 75 million. So they run the gamut. Nothing's too small, nothing is too large. We do keep our fees quite low. Our fees start at $895 and only go up to $1,495. So even if you have that $75 million exchange, our fee is only going to be $1,495. Here is what Steve and I were talking about. If someone gifts property to someone, an heir or a son or a daughter, whoever it might be, before they pass away, that person is going to essentially inherit all of the debt, all of the taxes, all of the everything that's been deferred up to that point. But if you wait to gift or to give that property to your heirs until you pass away, that's when they receive the step up in basis. So if you can, estate plan and have it in your will for it to be set up as inherited property instead of gifted while you're still alive. Here are some basic rules of exchanges. These are probably going to be the most helpful to you guys in terms of knowledge when helping your clients or just kind of discussing the basics. In order to defer all taxes, your clients are going to want to do really two things broken down into 4 parts here. They want to purchase for equal or greater value than they sell for. So that's sales price to sales price. If they're selling for 500,000, they're going to want to purchase for at least 500,000. Something else they want to do is reinvest all of the net proceeds in their purchase, in the property they purchase. Sometimes people think, well, I'm just going to keep 20 grand and then I'll get a loan that's bigger to cover the rest. If they receive any cash at all at the time their sale closes, that's considered boot and it is considered taxable. So they want to sell, have all of those proceeds come to us to be held. And then they want to use all of those, on their purchase. They don't want to receive anything other than the property itself in an exchange. Boot is any non-like kind property, so not something that's considered real property, like actual land and buildings by the IRS. Partially deferred exchanges are considered valid. I do have some people who, let's say, sell for $1 million and only want to purchase for 900,000. That's okay, but they are considered liable to pay that $100,000. So whatever would be due on that $100,000 difference, if that makes sense. Non-like kind property are things like partnership interests, stocks in trade, bonds, notes, certificates of trusts, and primary residences. Primary residences are not eligible to be bought and sold in exchanges. Foreign property. This is a tricky one. Prior to 1989, exchangers could buy and sell foreign property. Now they cannot. Essentially, foreign soil is not like kind to US soil, is how the IRS words it. There are a couple of exceptions. There are the US Virgin Islands, Guam, and the Northern Mariana Islands. I don't know where they are, but those are considered like kind to US soil. And unfortunately, Puerto Rico is not. So Puerto Rico, I had a lovely gentleman who it was his dream to, you know, buy a vacation home in Puerto Rico. And I had to break his kind, sweet heart and tell him, unfortunately, he couldn't purchase there, you know, anywhere else almost, but not there. And that was tough. You can combine personal property and actual real estate exchanges. Let's say you are selling a hotel. You want to break out on that settlement statement, and in the contract, here's the real property for the hotel and the land itself. And then here's the equipment or the franchise costs or anything like that. And keep those out of the exchange while exchanging the real property value itself. This is the, I'll end on this for you guys, but there's two timelines that you want to be aware of in an exchange. There's a 45-day rule and the 180-day rule. Essentially, both clocks start ticking. They run concurrently on the day that you close on your sale. You'll have 45 days from that date to identify all the properties you're interested in purchasing. And then you have 180 days to close on any and all purchases. So your exchange window is 6 months long, and there are no extensions. The only time that extensions come into play are in the case of federally declared natural disaster zones. Lately, we've been seeing more of those, but really they're still pretty rare. So 180 days is that kind of final window that you have there. And then the last thing I'll remind you of is just that however you hold title to the property you sell is how you must take title to the property you purchase. That's called the same taxpayer rule and can get you into trouble if you don't kind of keep that one in mind as you move through your exchange. So however you sell is how you have to purchase. And on that note, I will end and let somebody else talk.
Great. Thanks, Ashleigh. Does anybody have any questions for Ashleigh?
Great stuff.
Thank you so much.
Awesome.
India, do you have any questions at all? I know you've been, thinking through all this kind of stuff. And can you unmute yourself, India? You're muted.
Okay, yeah, there I am, I think. Yes, good morning, everybody. And thank you so much, Jeff and Ashleigh. Wow, that was tremendous information. I have a lot going on in my head. I don't have questions yet, but I did get your information and I scanned the thingy. And so I'll be contacting you. Yeah, it's tremendous information. I'm in the process of converting my primary residence to a rental.
Perfect.
And so all of this, the done for you, the IPX, all of this is just an amazing situation. So I'm very grateful. Thank you guys.
Oh, you're welcome. Well, after 2 years, you can actually go ahead and sell that rental, and you can take both the 1031 exception and the section 181 exception if you go to sell on that. So that's something to keep in mind too. You get, that's a triple whammy right there. So section 121 and section 1031 combined if you wait 2 years and sell, because it's been your primary residence. That's and correct. Also a rental property.
Mm-hmm.
That's
wow.
Okay. Good to know.
Again, my thanks to you, and we will be conversing very soon. Thank you so much.
So that's something to keep in mind as well, is if you have lived in a property for 2 years, you have, and let's say that you move out of that property, but you keep it and you begin renting it out. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ashleigh, but I believe that you have, isn't it an additional 2 years post moving out of the home to get the home sold, where you will not owe any capital gains or taxes on your increase?
That's a good question. I'd have to refresh kind of my memory on that. But if you have lived in it in the past and you do want to, convert it to a rental property and then sell it, you want to make sure that it's been a rental property for at least 2 years prior to selling in order to be able to do an exchange.
Right. But if you sell it prior to those 2 years, you don't need to do a 1031 exchange because you're exempt from the capital gains tax
You're not charged capital gains. It would be ordinary income tax at that point.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think up to, and we probably need a CPA, but I think that if you sell within a year, that there is some taxes. If you had it a rental for less than a year, and then if you've had it 2 years, I think, it's based on income. I think it's $250,000 for a single person and $500,000 for a married, that you're exempt from the taxes.
Yeah, that's that section 121.
That you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
David Dorn, are you able to unmute yourself?
Well, and then Carrie had a question as well.
Yeah. Can you ask your question, David?
Oh, it was the same thing that I just answered for the,
Okay.
I would just think you get the capital gains exemption and have the cash versus.
I have a question.
Okay. Joseph, go ahead.
Yeah, if somebody is doing 1031 exchange and out of the goodness of his heart, he decides that he wants to pay the taxes, can they start paying the taxes anytime possible? And is there a guideline on how it is supposed to be done? So let's say if somebody has 4 properties that he has taxes deferred, can he decide to pay maybe the 1 property and defer the other 3 and keep going like that, or they have to be all due at the same time?
That's a good question. They would all come due on the year that he filed those on his tax return.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So each year when you file your tax return, you report.
And that'd be a part
exchanges.
of the exchange. Just
Yeah.
us.
Ashley. Yes, we got a client who we just sold, we just in a contract on a property that he owns, some properties that he had. And he wants to do a 1031 exchange. He wants to use the money to buy out some partners in another business and another property. Is that anywhere near something he can use a 1031 exchange on?
Good question. It depends on how the property is titled. So if they're set up like a TIC ownership, he can absolutely purchase the partner's other undivided interest in that property. But interest in partnerships or businesses is not considered real property by the IRS. If that makes sense. So he can't purchase a 50% interest in someone's partnership. It would need to be on title as to an undivided, 50, 60, 70% interest in the property. So interest in partnerships and businesses themselves aren't considered real property.
Yeah, I believe he's already a 1/3 interest in this other enterprise
Gotcha.
building, and he wants to buy out his partners.
Yep. So if he's on title as to a third, undivided interest, then he can absolutely purchase that other 2/3
Okay, thank you.
of the property itself. Yep, absolutely. No problem.
Cool.
Carrie, did you have a question? What you asked, can we go over the ability to tax exchange after the purchase of
Right.
another?
Yeah, they found a property. Their other one is not going to close on time, according to the other property that's now under contract. We're pushing it and working with another EXP agent on it. So we're trying to, finesse things. But can you close on the new one and then come back, close on the first property and still do an after the fact tax exchange?
That's a great question. There is something that's called a reverse exchange where you purchase first and then you sell. Those are a bit more complicated and a bit more expensive. The IRS requires in that case that we form a single member LLC that we're the sole member of, but the exchanger is the manager of. It's called an exchange accommodation title holder. And that new LLC is what must take title to the property at the time the purchase closes. So essentially that allows you to park the property with us while you go ahead and have your 45 days to let us know which one you're going to sell and the 180 days to close on that sale. And then at the end of that, once you've sold, those funds come to us and we send them back out to you. Then we assign the membership interest in that LLC over to you, so you own it outright.
Okay.
Definitely more complicated. It can be done. Those are actually what Mark Bullock likes to do best.
Yeah.
I know he's a mystery, but he's great at them, and we're so happy to answer any other questions you have. So please call me, email me, anything like that, and I'm thrilled to answer your questions there.
Okay. Thank you, Ashleigh.
Of course.
So Ashleigh, to clarify, y'all do all 50 states. So if anybody on here has clients that are wanting to do exchanges anywhere in the US, you guys do all 50 states,
Yes,
correct?
ma'am. We do all 50 states. Yep, I have exchanges currently open in 48 of the states. So being, we're the largest QI in the nation, it gives us that reach. So even though I'm located in Utah, I do work nationwide, with attorneys, closers, realtors, brokers, you name it, CPAs. They seem to like us. I don't know why no one likes them. but we're nationwide, and I have that ability.
Awesome. Does anybody else have any final questions?
Great stuff.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Thank you. Email me anytime. Any questions, any topics, any flyers you guys need, by all means, I'm here for you.
Very cool.
Thank
Ashleigh, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Steve, Nate, thank you guys. Okay, for
Yes,
jumping
my
in
pleasure.
and connecting us to Ashleigh. So
Yes.
really, really good. So guys, couple reminders, the recording of this will be up on the Freedom Team Workplace page in just a little bit. Also on the Freedom Team YouTube channel. So you can definitely rewatch this and share it with people, whatever you want to do, it's there. So just know that. A lot of information there. Good to watch again. Next Tuesday, first Tuesday of August. Good Lord, it's going fast. So anyway, that will be just our open forum mastermind. So bring your questions, bring your anything you want to talk about real estate, anything in particular to a deal that you've got going right now, or marketing questions, or market questions in general, whatever. We'll just have a kind of a free for all next Tuesday. We do that the first Tuesday of the month. So definitely want to invite all you guys back, and invite your other realtor friends. Come join us. The more the better, and the more interactive the better. So totally appreciate it. So Kathy, anything else before we wrap up? Steve,
No, I think you've covered it. Yeah.
everybody
Steve,
good?
Nate, you guys got anything?
Nope, good to go. Thank you so much, Ashley. That
Cool.
was really
Yeah.
valuable.
Very good.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Thank you.
Excellent.
Guys so much.
Loads of info. So
And I
guys-
will just say, from my experience with 1031s, it's hard to find a good intermediary. So I'm grateful to be connected to you myself. And I know everybody got great value from that. And, it's great that you guys do all 50 states, because, the good ones are not easy to come by, for sure.
We really take pride in what we do. We won't let you down.
Yeah.
there you go. I'll post the website and Ashley's info in the groups as well, so you guys have it. Okay.
Thank you guys
Thank
so
you.
much. Thanks,
Thank you
Ashley.
guys. Have a
Great.
great rest of your day. We'll see you soon. All right.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.